Hello, and welcome to the 420247com. I'm your host, Madeline Carita. Okay, thank you for joining us. This is Madeline Carita, and we're going to get into some of the topics in today's cannabis news that you can use. I wouldn't really actually say news you can use, but I saw it on like another podcast or a news show. I'm not really sure where, but it sounded like it might work. Okay, let's get right into this. So, coming out of Washington, the Washington bill would allow medical cannabis in schools. Yes, it would allow medicinal marijuana in schools. I mean, guaranteed there's probably quite a bit of marijuana already in today's high schools, but at least this time you can get it from the nurse's office. So, the Washington bill, also known as Bill HB 1060, was introduced to the Washington legislature. You know what? I don't know why I can't talk today, but we're going to persevere through. By Representative Brian Blake, a Democrat from Aberdeen, Washington. Within the proposal, student patients must also meet the criteria of the state medical cannabis law and be authorized by a doctor to consume medical cannabis. The bill would also allow local schools to have the final say on the issue. So this new bill would seek to allow young patients to consume medicinal cannabis on school property. What does that mean for just schools in general? Because let's say back in the day when everybody was on, what was that? When everybody was taking the ADD medicine and everybody was taking, not back in the day. Right now, schools are filled with pharmaceuticals. There are children who are taking 2 to 3 pills a day, some for anxiety, some for hyperactivity, ADD, HDD. There's a lot of pharmaceuticals in our schools today, and we all know people who sold their Adderall. We know people who sold their Adderall. We know people who sold all kinds of their medication in school because, that's what was going on. That's what goes on in schools. That's just what it is. Do you guys out there think that this is a good idea or a bad idea? Because I think that this is a great idea because there's a lot of patients that are under the ages of 10, 15 that rely on this to stop seizures, rely on this to handle their personal medical problems. And I feel like if pharmaceuticals can have a place within our school systems, which which to a certain point they should be there, and then there's to a certain point where they're obviously going to be abused. That's just the way it is. Tell me what you think about this. Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea? I'm pro this idea, but you don't need to agree with me. I just feel that we would have to take extra measures for the patients that happen to be underage and have to take them during school hours. So let's see what they're saying about it. They believe this bill would simplify the administration's idea of giving medicine out to students, meaning that they will miss less time in school and their guardians will be able to go out about their day that much more quickly. So HB 1060, which is also known as the Washington bill, will be on the tables for the Washington legislative session from January 14th to February 22nd. Okay, so we're moving on from medicinal cannabis in schools to talk about the California Cannabis Tax. So, what do we know about the California Cannabis Tax? We know that California loves cannabis, and we know that California has legalized cannabis. But what is California's cannabis tax income is far lower than was expected. So some analysts are speculating that a majority of cannabis purchases in California still occur on the illicit market. Yes, it does. It's not even a speculation. It's that, the The things that come with the legalization of cannabis should come without the government still trying to control the market of a plant. It's a plant. You should be able to grow it freely and consume it freely whenever you feel like. But we know that the things that we consume and buy have to be regulated by the government in order so they can make money. I personally know that, yes, most purchases are still going to be on the illicit market because there's really nothing you can do about there being an undercurrent of people who don't want to shop with the government. They don't want to shop with legislation. They don't want to shop with their local police force. They don't want to do that. That's not what they're about. They don't want to go into dispensaries. I mean, there's always going to be an undercurrent of people who'd rather just deal with average people on the street. And that's not just for the cannabis market. That's for any market that you could possibly think of. It's the difference between getting tomatoes at your local grocery chain and getting tomatoes at your local farmer's market. Some people just want to go to the farmer's market. Not saying that whatever's in the store isn't as good, but it's often pricier than what you would get when you're working from one-to-one with somebody who runs a, let's say, community pharmaceutical business. So, newly elected California Governor Gavin Newsom's state budget shows that by the end of June, the state is expected to collect $355 million in cannabis taxes. See, $355 million in taxes, and you're still trying to worry about the people who are doing supposedly illicit plant buying deals. Does that even make sense? So the experts are saying that the reality is a majority of California cannabis consumers can try to say that 3 times fast. Experts say that in reality, a majority of California cannabis consumers still purchase on the illicit market. Some states indicate that 80% of the purchases still may be in the form of unlicensed sources. Well, duh. Governor Newsom is seeking to increase spending for regulatory programs, hoping to force more unlicensed businesses into the legal market. More like hoping to force more businesses into giving the state of California more money. That's what that reads out to. But California's top cannabis official, Lori Ajax, says she intends to license more businesses and crack down on the unlicensed operators this year. So wait. California's top cannabis official, Lori Ajax, says she intends to license more businesses and crack down on the unlicensed operators this year. I don't necessarily believe that she's really just a cannabis official. Anyway, it's just a cute title that doesn't actually mean too much, except that she's going to spend her time busting people who don't want to participate in giving the government more taxes. However, one speed bump in her plan is the fact that more than half the municipalities in California, I cannot talk today, have not established cannabis regulations yet. That means businesses can't operate there at all, as local licenses are required before operations can begin. The issue at hand is not just licensing. Josh Drayton of the California Cannabis Industry Association, oh my God, do they just make these titles up or pick them out of a hat? Said that steep taxes have kept people purchasing from their dealers. Under California law, there are multiple levels of taxation for the industry. While the state collects 15%, other levels of regional government are permitted to add their own taxes, which can sometimes result in tax levels approaching 50% in some localities. Yeah, you guys are absolutely out of control. It seems like the only reason that that legalization has occurred in these states is because these government officials see dollar signs. They're seeing green, and it ain't the cannabis kind. That's part of the problem with this situation. Instead of trying to make more revenue, it'd just be easier to legalize it all over. But we kind of are living in a system where greed is good, and a lot of our politicians on both sides of the fence are just greedy in general. But let's get back to it. So, Newsom says that he is tackling the problem and that he will inspect the state's cannabis distribution pipeline and investigate claims that local governments are gouging cannabis businesses. No duh that local governments would be gouging the cannabis business, considering that the fact that anybody isn't even involved in the regulation of cannabis instead of just the legalization of cannabis shows you that there is greed involved. Gouging is just one of the side effects of that. Aside from moving on from California's cannabis tax income far lower than expected, Florida is allowing medical cannabis smoking, and the governor promises to end foot dragging. Considering it's a state that's known for people riding butt-ass naked down the freeway on four-wheelers high on bath salts, meth, or whatever have you, it's actually something reasonable coming out of a story out of the state of Florida. So Florida's new governor said that he's going to intend to stop the state's ban on cannabis smoking and help implement a law that the people voted for. Yes, the people in California voted majority in a landslide ballot initiative in 2016 to have Florida's medicinal cannabis program created and started. At a press conference Monday, Florida Governor Rick DeSantis said his administration will be moving medical cannabis laws forward in 2019, in particular ending the previous governor's ban on smoking cannabis. According to the Pensacola News-Journal, Florida's medical cannabis program was created following a landslide ballot initiative in 2016, but has faced, in Governor DeSantis' own words, heavy foot dragging by state officials. One particularly contentious piece of litigation is a ban on smoking cannabis products established in 2017. I almost said 1708, which, kind of makes sense for these kind of laws. It was not included in the voter-approved initiative, and many patients felt like their votes were being overruled when officials enacted the ban. Voters were also upset by a limit set in 2017 on the number of cannabis licenses that would be issued. Well, I guess the governor at the time figured out what happens when you don't give the people what they want. There's a new governor. The lawsuit brought against the smoking ban was upheld by a judge who ruled that the smoking ban was against the state's constitution. The previous governor, Rick Scott, appealed the decision, but finally judgment wasn't passed by the time he left office. That's because he got kicked out. If you don't give the people what they want, considering that this is a for the people, by the people kind of, establishment here we got going in America, if you don't give the people majority what they want, you'll get replaced. Which former Florida Governor Rick Scott found out. Now, the current governor, DeSantis, was telling reporters that the appeal will be dropped and that he intends to return to the original spirit of the law passed by voters in 2016. I think a lot of voters were frustrated that they don't think it has been. Wait, what? I think a lot of voters were frustrated that they don't think that it has been. Okay, cool. I had to reread that a few times. They think there's been a lot of foot dragging. So my job is when the people speak, you have to listen. This was not an amendment that was really that close. It was like 72% landslide. Governor Rick DeSantis via the Pensacola News-Journal. Governor DeSantis says he will be working together instead of against well-known proponents of medicinal cannabis in the state and hopes to finally launch a proper Florida cannabis program. Florida? Is that you? Is that you, girl? Wow, Florida, you really coming up in the game. I'm super proud of you, Florida. I'm super proud of you and what you've been doing. I see that you're really getting your life together, Florida. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing less, I know you have that problem with meth and people eating each other's faces, but you're going to pull through this. It seems like Florida, of all states that you would think would be making sense, is coming, I guess, into their own. Like, Florida's the last state I thought I was going to hear that from. So, that's not the only thing that's kind of been going on lately. We're going to also talk about the fact that Denver's sweet leaf dispensary owners were sentenced to prison for illegal distribution, and Thailand invalidates the medical cannabis patent attempts, and a lot more in the next 15 minutes of the 420-247.com. Okay, and we're back. So we're going to start the top of the next 15 minutes to talk about the sweet leaf dispensary owners being sentenced to prison for illegal distribution. Okay. How can people still be going to prison when we've legalized it? Right? But the word legalization is just a word. It is a word that means that the government can taxate and also collect revenue from you selling a plant that was illegal until they figured out how to make money off of it. This story is coming out of Denver. Yes, Denver. More than a year after Denver police raided the dispensary chain, the owners have been sentenced to jail time. Okay. How are people still going to prison over something that should be legal and is legal? So let me put you on game. The owners of the former dispensary chain Sweet Leaf, which was subject to a long dispute with Colorado regulators over violations regarding per customer cannabis purchasing limits, has been sentenced to a year in prison. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The people fought for this because we needed this medicinal alternative for a lot of people who were suffering. But the regulators and the city officials and state officials and governors, plural, are all trying to figure out how to get their hand in the cookie jar. If it becomes something that is only government run, only government enforced, there's going to still be jail time for violating the rules in which hurt the pockets of the legislators who are making the rules in order to benefit themselves. Because this isn't about hurting customers or violating a per customer cannabis purchasing limit. Are you kidding me? When it's legalized, this is about how can these governments make money off of what the people want. So Sweet Leaf, based in Denver, Colorado, was accused of looping or allowing customers to return several times per day to buy the maximum allowed amount, which is a violation of the law. It's assumed that cannabis purchasing used this method was diverted to the illicit market. Are you kidding me? So you're still worried about an illicit market because, for the first time, we're being honest about it cutting into the funds of the legislatures, the cutting into the piggy banks of the politicians. The sentencing is the final action in a long series of monetary judgments and legal drama. I think there was obviously a first case in Colorado. I think it was the first in the nation where a state prosecution office went after a licensed marijuana company. We did not see this scope with anybody else. From Kenneth Boyd, lead prosecutor via the Denver Post. Yes, this is kind of garbage. Kind of garbage in general. So the Sweet Leaf owners, Christian Johnson, Matthew Aiken, and Anthony Suro, all pled guilty to charges of violating the Colorado Organized Crime Act, illegally selling and distributing cannabis and failure to file or pay taxes. So they were still paying taxes on these purchases. They were not illegally or distributing it because they have licenses to do that. That's not a good assumption. To assume because somebody bought the maximum extra that they're obviously selling it on the black market, but you have no proof of that. How do you know that this person just doesn't need extra quantities for whatever condition they have? How do you know this person doesn't make multiple drop-offs to various people who may be on a medicinal program? So this is basically they're going to jail for a year on an assumption made by the government that they're cutting into the government's money. Because all that says is basically you didn't give us as much money as we thought we should get. That's what that Organized Crime Act is saying in relation to this cannabis case. The plea deal that encouraged the owners to plead guilty stipulated that their sentence would be 1 year in prison, then 1 year of parole, then 1 year of probation. The vast majority of Denver's marijuana industry businesses are reputable and responsible and strive to obey our marijuana laws. However, Sweet Leaf is an exception. My office will persecute those who do not comply with our marijuana laws, said Denver District Attorney Beth McCain. Something tells me this is just not about it being dangerous or them being undercover illicit market drug dealers. Just saying, I'm just putting that out there that this just smells funny. Smells like greed out of control. Okay, so for the next story, Thailand invalidates all cannabis patents in response to public outcry. So a lot of what, the legalization in America means is that we don't often think about how cannabis is out and affecting the rest of the world. So in Thailand just invalidated all cannabis patents in response to a public outcry. Following a public outcry against a plan to patent THC and CBD cannabis compounds, the Thai Prime Minister has stepped in to resolve the dispute. Okay. Ooh, Lord help me, because there is no way I'm going to be able to say this dude's name. Thailand's Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-Ocha. You know this ain't NPR. You know that this ain't NPR because I'm struggling with these names. Okay, let me try again. Prayuth Chan-Ocha. If somebody knows how to say it, that's cool. I'm not trying to mess his name up on purpose. It's just hard to say. Has issued a decree ordering the Department of Intellectual Property to invalidate all patents for any molecule derived from cannabis. GW Pharmaceuticals and Atsuku Pharmaceuticals has applied for patents earlier this month, despite the fact that patents on natural organisms are explicitly prohibited. The applications were not rejected outright and instead given a patent pending status. So the Prime Minister stepped in and issued the decree due to the concerns over foreign interests using patents to monopolize the Thai marketplace. According to the decree and previous readings of the law, patents for cannabis products are already in violation of Thai law, which stipulates that the plants cannot be patented. So in Thailand, you are not allowed to patent Mother Nature. I'm glad somebody came up with that. The decree will hold sway on the issue of cannabis patents until the time as the Thai parliament writes a complete law regulating medicinal cannabis, which was legalized at the beginning of the year in all of Thailand. The legalization bill still needs to be signed by King Maha Valakorn. Ooh, I have no clue how to say that. This is even harder than the last name. Vajiralongkorn. I have no clue how to say that. The king. The bill needs to still be signed by King Maha before the next stage of the process can begin. The government of Thailand, which is a military dictatorship that took power in 2014, allows for sweeping decrees like the one invalidating all cannabis patents. So, Thailand is coming through with the fact that you really can't patent Mother Nature. It's kind of silly to try to patent Mother Nature, huh, US? Huh, USA? The idea that you could possibly pass laws and try to control Mother Nature. Wow. Okay, so AG nominee puts cannabis enforcement pledge in writing. So what does the AG nominee do? What is the AG nominee? What am I talking about? So, another story in the cannabis news you can use is that committing to statements made during his confirmation hearings, Attorney General nominee William Barr has put his pledge to leave the state legal cannabis businesses alone in writing. Let me say that again. Committing to statements made during his confirmation hearings, Attorney General nominee William Barr has put his pledge to leave state legal cannabis businesses alone, and he put it in writing. So William Barr, the nominee for Attorney General, who previously said he wouldn't go after cannabis companies during his confirmation hearings, has agreed to this in writing, according to a story by Tom Angel of Forbes. Barr has put his statement into writing following a request from several senators who wanted to make sure he put his money where his mouth is, so to speak. As discussed at my hearing, I do not intend to go after parties who have complied with the state law in reliance on the Cole Memorandum. Barr is not, however, intending to reinstate the Cole Memo, which has a Justice Department, which... I am talking way too loud, guys. I still love you guys, though. Okay, here we go. So, Barr is not, however, intending to reinstate the Cole Memo. I have no clue what's going on with me in talking today. You would think that I do this for a living. Barr is not, however, intending to reinstate the Cole Memo, which was a Justice Department memo rescinded by Jeff Sessions that had prevented the federal prosecution of state legal cannabis industries. I have not closely considered or determined whether further administrative guidance would be appropriate following the Cole Memorandum and the January 2018 memorandum from Attorney General Sessions on what should guidance might look like. If confirmed, I will give the matter careful consideration. And that is from William Barr responding to Senator Cory Booker via Forbes magazine. While Barr is not in favor of legalization federally, Barr made statements about expanding the federal cannabis research program. I support the expansion of marijuana manufacturers for scientific research consistent with law. If confirmed, I will review the matter and take appropriate steps, responded Barr to Senator Charles Grassley, a Republican senator from Iowa. What? Iowa? Okay. Well, Barr may not be perfect for the cannabis industry. He's a huge step up from Sessions, according to Don Murphy, Director of Federal Policies for the Marijuana Policy Project. Yeah, he's a huge step up from Sessions. Sessions was a Keebler elf. Anybody who's over 5'4" is a huge step up from Sessions. So according to Don Murphy, Director of Federal Policies for the Marijuana Policy Project, William Barr just didn't wave the white flag. He signed a peace agreement. Take that for whatever you want. Just gonna go with that. So thank you for joining me and listening to the 420247.com, where you can get all the cannabis news that you can use and that is fit to send digitally on the internet. I think it's supposed to be fit to print, but we don't read that. Who reads newspapers? Just saying. Who's printing what? Save that tree. Or smoke that tree. Well, this is Madeline Carita, and thank you for joining me on the 420247.com. See you again here soon. Bye.